And good evening and welcome to Health and Education February edition 2014. Welcome to all our many guests. Glad to have you with us. And you're welcome to come back at any time. First order of business is the approval of minutes, and I need a motion to approve. Ms. Cook, thank you. And a second? Mr. Soriano, we're in good shape there. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And okay, community care is second order of business, and you have the report there on your iPad. And Ms. Cook is with us. The mayor is with us, and I noticed a lot of you reading this beforehand. So if there's any questions, now would be a good time. Ms. Cook, any comments? Mr. Mayor, any comments? We in good shape?
Very good, Jay.
Doing good.
What a terrific place and so well run, I think. But the committee, any question?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan. And a second?
Second.
I think that was Mr. Turner, I believe, beat Ms. Cook by
That's fine.
2/10 of a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, none. Health Department, Ms. Garrett, good evening, and come on up and welcome.
Evening.
The lady's protecting us all from the flu.
Trying, that's for sure. My new report that I had talked to you guys about, is it on there electronically?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Trying to present more data for you guys to look at. So the section over here under improve is the traditional report of what we reported, and that's just our encounters for January, because it's the first of the year. And then for Smyrna and Murfreesboro, the other activities we do kind of combined, so they're combined into a combined effort. So we have our health education classes that we teach, community events that we take part of, different councils that we host, and to try to promote community and population health. We also added in information about our diabetes outreach. Diabetes is such a large part of what we do, not just the patients that come through the door, but prevention and education and management. We put some information about the inspections that occur, the classes that they teach for the environmental part, how they try to teach people to cook safely and keep a clean, orderly kitchen. They do those kind of classes regularly. We have the immunizations on there, and we put extra services or other services, just like in January we did a huge outreach to underserved populations for flu shots, different things that we just wanted to show you a more comprehensive picture of what we've been working on as a health department.
Committee, any questions for our health director? Our dentist saw 129 people in the month of January.
Yes, that's correct.
How's that working out?
Awesome. We've got her full-time, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that we keep her full-time with us. So it's
I'm
doing
curious.
really great. We also do a transport program with some kids from school that are in need, and lots of things we do through that dental program.
Excuse me for not knowing this, but that's probably nothing new. But did she sign a contract for a certain length of time to guarantee us that? Or
No.
I know we were really searched for a long time. And
Yes, we did. We did. No, we didn't choose to go that route to offer that. So as a thing, but the state did put $26,000 more salary with her salary. So we're hoping that incentive, jumping that salary.
she is
up.
aware that we absolutely want to keep her.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
50-something thousand, then I added the 20.
No, it was in the 89, and we added the 26,000 to it
Okay.
to make it a little bit more competitive
Mhm.
in that market.
She is based.
In
Murfreesboro.
Murfreesboro. Because of the specialty equipment, it's
Sure.
difficult to offer it in Smyrna, but we do have,
Those services are obviously offered to the people in Smyrna if they want to come down here.
yeah, Absolutely,
She do-
absolutely.
she
It's
do-
11 miles between the two sites, so.
She doing both corrective and preventive?
Yes, yes. We try to focus mostly on preventative in the children's programs, but we end up having to do a lot of corrective. That's exactly right.
Any questions? Color-coded report, huh?
A lot of hours went into making
Very
this
impressed,
simple
huh?
little document, but it's funny how that can happen, you know?
Bright and cheery, kind of Christmassy, green and red there.
Yeah, I know.
I need a motion to approve if there are no questions, committee. Commissioner Soriano, and a second.
Second.
Mr. Cook, thank you so much. Any discussion? And there is none, and all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And of course, there is none. Ms. Garrett, anything else?
No, sir, that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Special projects report. Ms. Nolan is taking Ms. Jolly's place tonight. She sat on the back row.
Oh, yeah, well, there's only seat left.
That's
what you get.
Ms.
That
Nolan,
is
welcome.
really good. Thank you. Thank you.
Got a little money left in some various things, but pretty good shape.
Yes, we are, and I just, I know that y'all see this every month, and probably one thing that I just want to bring back to your attention is where we are on the money. And we have an internal borrowing that we borrowed from our debt service, $7.4 million to help fund the Blackman Middle Annex until we get, until we go to market. We've not moved any money over yet for Smyrna Primary, but we're using the money really from Blackman and both. That 7.4 that we moved over is kind of helping to fund that until we go to the market.
When do you plan?
Probably I will be bringing in April the initial resolution. I was kind of hoping to see how this worked out tonight and bring you the whole package. There's a lot of pieces and parts of projects that people were bringing in, the Justice Center, all those little pieces and parts. Don't like going to the market a lot because there is some huge effort to do it. So I'd like to go and once we know what everybody is wanting to do, and then we'll have that. So expect around April for the initial resolution, and then maybe the initial and final. So probably in April or May.
Committee, you've had this report for a few days. Any question? It's so far, before we get to this market visit here pretty soon, this is pretty standard stuff with very little change in the amount of money here. But if there are no questions, I need a motion to approve the report. From someone? Fired up Commissioner?
Move to approve, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Commissioner Phillips. And a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Allen. Any discussion? Questions of any type? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? None. Okay, thank you. No, you'll be with us, right?
Oh, yeah, I'll stay.
All right. School board amendments, and director is here, of course. Have many school board members here, as a matter of fact. And already welcomed everybody, so welcome you again. Mr. Sandvik, we need to go over the school board amendments, and I understand there are none.
No.
And if you all would come on up, whoever wants to come up for funding requests, I know you want to address at least one thing, I think, and maybe more.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. You have
Um,
handouts? I see handouts.
We do have some. We'll,
As a former teacher, I've got to
We-
have a
we-
handout.
we're in the school
Can't-
business. We do
can't sur-
handouts. You know
Can't
how that
survive
goes.
without a handout.
Yeah, lots of that.
The others coming.
You could turn this into a science lesson, probably.
Well, I might do a little bit better with geography or history. Everybody got the material? Director Odom, if you would.
Okay, we're following up on what we told you last month. We're now coming for funding for the addition at Eagleville School. This is the phase one. We completed the phase two first, if you'll remember that. A thing or two about, one of the things that we're noticing at Eagleville, it's really becoming quite popular. And Mr. Tollett is here. I mean, if you'd like for him to speak sometime, but he has waiting lists. They really, they've grown a little, cannot grow a lot because we have them capped. We just do not accept people into that. The addition that we're talking about will add, is 30,300 square feet, and this is in your sheet, adds 9 classrooms. It's on page 4, I believe is that. 9 classrooms, 2 science labs, 1 band rehearsal, 1 choir rehearsal. That's a total of 13 rooms. Does some changing for the restrooms, offices, dressing rooms, dining room expansion. Hopefully we not have to begin eating lunch so early in a bank bookstore, which we offer in almost all of our high school, and some of that serving line renovation. But just to tell you a few things, their academic performance is great. One of the things that kind of stands out, and that's why we have so many people that really want to go there. In 2012, the graduation rate at Eagle was 96.8%. That's the highest of any high school in Rutherford County. Last year, and at the end of 13, they were 94.6, and that'll fluctuate a little bit based on the number they got, but that was still the second highest in the county. So people know, and most of you are aware, especially if they get in their ag program or some of the other CTE offerings there, how well they are able to develop students, how those students stick with them. One of our issues about also wanting to add on to Eagle is because we're beginning to see that corridor that comes from Blackman all the way out to Eagleville begin to grow. Rockvale Middle this year, and I gave you some of that information, early on, but Rockvale Middle this year grew 108 students, 5th month to 5th month. And so that puts us at Rockvale at 982. So we're about to cross that 1,000 mark, which requires us to add additional portables at Rockvale. So we're hoping that with these additional room and space that he can open up some and accept some of those, possibly high school, middle school students especially, that would allow us to accommodate these new students coming in. It may save us a building or save us for 2 or 3 years in a building if we can do this addition. I would like to maybe let Gary go over some of the cost estimates for you, if you will, based on some of our latest numbers. Does anyone have a question or something first? I mean, sure.
Committee, we've looked at this really since December a little bit, when we had our meeting at Community Care. If you recall, Director Odom addressed it somewhat that night and then the last time as well. So, and we had plenty of questions the last time. Not that we shouldn't have any tonight, I don't mean that, but a lot of things have already been answered. I have a couple of things I want to ask you eventually here, but let's go ahead and get to the, I'm sure they may have questions as well, but let's go ahead and get to Mr. Clardy's financials here.
Well, as you probably recall, we did do a design on the school back in 2011. And if you look at this front sheet, you'll see the design fee there of $325, and part of that's already expended on that initial design. Then, of course, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, we've got $571,000 in there because we have all of the stage lighting and the auditoriums in there, plus all of there's 2 science labs in there that we have to outfit. Then the construction, I updated this price just recently to $5.9 million, and the reason for doing that is that was our experience on the last 2 schools that we built, that the prices had gone up. And then also, we took a look at the serving lines in there. And coupled with some federal funds that Fred Blair has as our Director of Food Services, we're going to help him upgrade those serving lines so he can get more people through them quicker. That's one of the bottlenecks in the food system out there now is the serving lines. He needs an extra serving line in there. So that puts that at a total of $6.796 million. If you will turn over to the last page, the base bid phase 1, the lowest bid down there was $3.7 million when we received these back in August of 2011. Of course, we've had an increase in price, and then with the added cafeteria lines, kitchen lines, we have raised that up. Plus, we've also taken into account these other alternates that we would like to do, and we'll still bid those as broken out, like they are on this one on their next bid, just so that we'll have an option of choosing those if we don't have enough money. I think this cost is pretty accurate. It may be a little bit high, but I certainly don't want to come back over here and have to sit down and ask for more money when it goes through the bid process.
Did you and Fred Blair discuss a specific amount we might be able to federal funds?
Not really.
Okay.
He has been doing, on the newer renovations, he's been basically furnishing the equipment.
Right, mm-hmm, yeah.
So I've been taking care of the building and the renovation, and then he's been doing the equipment, if there's any equipment.
Because that is one thing we have been trying to do since we centralized the cafeterias. Before that, we had to use borrowed funds for that cafeteria equipment. Now that we are centralized, and we are, watch that fund balance, of course, we have that latitude. So some things that we used to pay for out of taxpayer funds now flow out of the cafeteria fund balance. But that's
Any questions? I'll be
Well,
glad.
I have one, I just want you to say it again. What is the total amount that you're requesting for?
Our total amount is $6,796,000.
You said some of the design's already been paid,
Right.
so that would come out of that number.
Yeah,
would
it
it
would
not?
come out of that number.
Did we do any of the work with phase 2? Did that take care of any site prep or anything like that, or they're
Just
kind of
in,
on different sides of the building?
they're in
Yeah.
different areas
Mhm.
of the building, so we've got quite a bit. We've got to do some runoff water up there, storm water. We've got to take care of that. We've got to redo some parking. That's always kind of a victim of the traffic and stuff, the heavy traffic. We'll have to do that. And then there's a road that goes out to New 96 that we had the company put in when they were doing the road out there. We gave them a place to put some fill dirt and another place to get some fill dirt, so they cut us a road in to New 96 from that parking lot, or 99, I'm sorry. And so we want to pave that during this process also. So there's quite a bit of odds and ends on site work.
Sewer comes in this fall.
Yeah,
That's another thing, that's all.
talked to Mr. Toon, and they're getting ready to start the sewer in March.
So what's that sound, it'll actually
So-
functional by this fall, they think?
It will be. They're bidding, they've opened the bids, and they've chosen a contractor. I believe he said it's supposed to be approved this week at their council. And, of course, we're participating in that, not out of this, but out of money, out of that 5 cent capital improvements to connect our sewer to that, put in some pumps and some different things at the school. And I think we've gotten $280,000 set aside for that to make sure that we hook up which will take the pressure off of us on the state permit that we have right now. That plant that's there is just getting older. We knew this was coming, so we haven't dumped any money into it. And I suspect we will give that permit up once we make sure we're connected onto the other. So that will get rid of any type of effluent that goes into that creek out there, which is right at the head of the Harpers River. Also, I just briefly want to go over this schedule, and that's on page 2. Right now, we're looking at a few weeks of architectural and engineering design that is going on in the cafeteria. We found a few other issues around the site that we need to address, and we're just taking a good look at it to make sure that if there's any updates, since the plans are 2.5 years old, that we can go ahead and do those. April 9th, we would like to submit those documents to the State Fire Marshal's office. It usually takes a while to get those approved. And then on May 9th, which is 30 days later, we want to issue the bid documents. And then on June 3rd, we would have a bid opening, and then the construction start on June 16th as soon as school's out. And then we would have the construction completion by July 20th, 2015.
While there's a pause, let's go back just a minute, committee. You remember a couple of years ago, we I think the public needs to know, because this is clearly labeled Phase 1, and actually we chose to do Phase 2 first. This is, after all, the government, so you can't expect us to, do things in proper order. But there was already named, so we did Phase 2 first. I'm gonna pin him down here, but it was Mr. Tollett who made the choice, and he chose instructional space, classrooms, and that was the phase that he wanted, and so that's what we did. And I understand it's full, of course, which brings me to the next question: was this going to get us at least temporarily out of the portable business at Eagleville School?
It should. It should.
Which is something a lot of people in this room are very interested in.
And that's very good news, because we need them in other places.
Yeah.
How many are out there now?
143 for classroom space, and there's about 3 others that are part of our Care Here, that
Okay.
sort of thing is tied. 143, I think, 146 total, I believe.
That's in
You
the
mean
whole
Eagle?
city.
Oh, and
At
Eagleville.
Eagleville.
At Eagleville.
But total's great,
143.
too. No, that's when you said that, I was like, wow, we're way behind.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. How many?
9 classrooms.
Nine
Nine,
classrooms? Okay.
And we have been able to make it the year before we opened Laverne Lake, which I don't remember right off, is the last time we had to buy portables. We have made it by moving them, and
Some of them are pretty old.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
some we can't, the ones we have gotten rid of have been
I know a
not
teacher got
movable.
put in one a couple of years ago, and she had been in the same portable like
Yes.
18 years earlier.
Yes.
And because she recognized some of the problems that had 18
Yes.
years before that were still a problem.
Yeah.
We had to salvage 2 or 3 at Roy Walden, if you remember. We actually had more than that. They just would not
Yeah.
move.
Mhm.
Well, we've
Cost too high.
started doing a biannual inspection on those now, and we're catching those up out of maintenance funds and also we're re-roofing some of them, we're replacing siding, we're re-insulating, we're replacing HVACs, we're painting them. So we're doing everything, and one of the reasons that we have not bought any portables is not because there was a lack of a need for them. It's because we have basically, I hate to use this word, but in a form it's true, we forced the school administration to be creative in providing seats for the student. We have requests, we have bunches of requests every year that could be very helpful, but we're very selective in where we're letting them go out, and we try to get with the administration, try to work out. Maintenance may go out and take some walls out or put some walls up, but we've worked very hard to keep from buying any, because we see that as buying portables as an assault on our building program.
Well, they're
And
very expensive.
They are.
I think the commission has been on record the last several years saying we'd rather build classrooms than buy trucks,
Right.
you know, and,
It is about 65,000 double wide set up and
That's
purchase or
correct.
something like that.
Electricity.
Kind of is the figure you use. We'll pick up a few portables from the Blackman edition that you're doing this time, the Smyrna Primary edition, so that's some of what we're looking at.
Mr. Tollett, who's using the labs that we built the last time, 2 years ago? Biology?
Sixth, seventh, and eighth grade science.
Okay, who's going to use the labs that are in this, in
High
this
school
plan
chemistry
if
and
it
high school
passes?
biology.
I wanted to ask if anybody, you'd be the obvious person, but he said you were capped, and I know if a student moves into Eagleville, Tennessee, you have to take that student. But if somebody wants to transfer in there from somewhere else, you've been capped in the high school and the middle school and the elementary, or just the elementary grades, or?
Those are actually fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth are capped right now.
Okay.
We're still currently taking some freshmen.
Mr. Blair and I toured, you had signs on the door that there was no, everyone was welcome at Eagle High School, but if you wanted to come in, you were in the whatever grades, there was no seat. There was no place for you. So this would alleviate that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Committee, questions?
I remember when this process started, it seemed like forever ago. I think we had a meeting up at Central one time and talked about it, and this, Eagleville kind of reminds me, Commissioner, about the, Mr. Chairman, about the old days when we had a Kittrell High School and a Walter Hill High School, and there's a lot of difference, but the pride in that school and that community is reminiscent of days and years gone by, and just that pride within itself is something that, I'm not saying we don't have it at the other schools, but it's, Blackman High School or Riverdale High School or Oakland High School is not the same as Eagleville High School or Kittrell High School, and it's a project that we ask a lot of pointed questions about, and what was the future, did the future hold, and I think all those have been answered, and I think we're prepared to do this, and if we're ready for a motion, I move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second from Ms. Cook.
I've got a question before we vote on this.
Yes, sir.
The next thing on the list says next middle or elementary school, and it's on the same timeline. And that's $35,800,000. Is that coming next month?
No.
I mean, or this list need to be amended, because if we're gonna spend.
If that's what we've talked about, we actually looked at properties and some things. I think the next thing that you're very likely to see is, we're looking at some properties and that sort of thing, but it's gonna take a little while before we get there. But, that growth of a little over 1,100 this year. And interestingly enough, I gave y'all a copy of the fourth month before, I think. The fifth month, we were up 1,225. It was 1,100 and something the fourth month. It's 1,225 now for the fifth month.
But we're not gonna try and open another school by August the 15th.
No, I don't think.
Because we would
can.
have to be on fire to get that done, and that's what it says right here.
I don't think we can
Okay.
do that.
We have a very pressing issue at Oakland Middle School,
It's over 1,100.
and we're trying to address that at this time through purchase of some property to perhaps do the same thing we've done at Blackman Middle School to alleviate that issue.
We are not talking about this next budget year for that. Or are we?
it may be over a 2-year period to try to do that, but the main thing is, can we secure properties and all? That's the thing that's driving it now. Can
And
we
if you're
do
doing
that?
something similar to Blackman, you'll be talking a much smaller
That is. we're not-
project, of 6 or 7 million compared to a 35 million
That's
project.
correct.
But we're about to run out of those. I mean, we're honestly with 1,100, we have to look at another school, like I say, at some point.
It's becoming necessary, but we're almost getting off our purpose we had to keep schools below a certain size.
I agree.
And now we're starting to back up and say, well, we're gonna put 1,600 in this middle school or 1,500, and we're kind of starting down another road that could be a little scary.
It is. I think the design at Blackman, the one thing that really convinced me and began to change my mind in the school board was with this, the design with the 6th grade separate, where we put the area where they get their physical education. You know, it's not a gym, it's a more or less a playroom. Putting science rooms in that, adding their own, the classrooms for the 6th grade. We expanded the cafeteria area, if you remember, at Blackman, so they can basically go in and eat. So by expanding that core area for the eating and then adding the classroom space and the other auxiliary services that we have for that, it's kind of like treating it as almost 2 different schools. Now, they need to go over for the library time, but so much of that's becoming online and other things that we can do now. We think, even though it's one school at one plant, certainly with the parking and that sort of thing, but we think that we can still keep that community concept, like we do the kind of that mini school, keep that community concept even though the numbers get larger. Was the design that Gary and them came up with. I was extremely pleased when I saw that design.
We will be down 41 around Whitworth, Buchanan, with 700 houses going on there, and then maybe another 300 on the Jones property, a little bit north of there. If those bust open and start, then we may be faced with the same issue at Whitworth, Buchanan, so we're trying to prepare for that now.
Actually, at our zoning hearing, the lady was, one of those developing that said, our plans are for 751 homes around the Whitworth, Buchanan area.
It's a
So-
school.
Yes, ma'am. It
It's a
is.
school.
So it'll take a long time for the market to absorb that many houses.
It will,
That'll be a
it will, and some will
20-year
be
project or
high, and
something.
some will be
15 to
middle, and some will
20
be
year project.
elementary.
Yeah.
That's true.
We have a motion, and it's been properly seconded on the floor. I'm gonna give everybody a chance now. Some of you haven't commented at all, which is fine, but you want to say anything, we got the experts right here, and school board members in the room. Yes, sir.
That's something I wanted to ask Mr. Chairman to make sure I understand. Ms. Nolan said we were gonna go to bond market hopefully late spring, May. Because what I wanted to make sure wasn't happening, and if we voted on this, we were responsible for that. And what I mean by that is if many on this committee will recall, when several of us came on board in 2010, there was a project that was voted on in April of 2010 before any, well, not any, but a lot of commissioners were even on the commission that we were responsible for funding. And I just want to make sure if this passes tonight that we're going to be the ones responsible for it. We're not kicking the can down the road to say we voted for it, but then we're not going to be responsible to be able to fund that. Because that happened to us, and I know at least for me, I took some offense to that I was tied down to that almost immediately when we got on this committee. And I don't think that's what's happening here, or that's what's going to happen here. I just want to make sure I understood what Ms. Nolan was saying, that this committee was going to be responsible and this commission was going to be responsible for paying that, because there's a few commissioners on here that are not going to be here next year, and there's several that might not even be on this committee. So just wanted to make sure we all understood, you know, what we're doing with this. Not that anybody doesn't, but just to publicly make sure that we're aware that, you know, we are responsible to try to get this funded this year and do what's right by Eagleville and right by citizens across the county too.
I think, well, Ms. Nolan, we will have gone to bond market and have this wrapped up before election time.
Yeah,
So,
that's what, well, even,
Yeah.
it's not even the election, it was more that making sure this commission was the one that was on the hook and us not kicking the can, just being able to paddle. Well, you guys know, I mean, I'm not trying to insult anybody here, I just wanna make sure that's what I want to make sure I understood my responsibility too with it, was that we were not voting on something that somebody else was gonna have to fund.
Lisa. I just,
Ms. Nolan?
yes, I just have objection on what the amendment, I mean, what the request is it to fund, almost 6.8 million?
Can you take that 312?
I would
Take
just
the
say,
325
How much
out.
the 325 has been?
I'm not sure, I would just say minus the,
If you say that, just say 6.8, and then we can work through it by the time
Okay.
we get to budget, because we'll have to add the layer of what we'll have to borrow
Right.
for the city of,
Yeah.
Murfreesboro in
six
there.
point eight.
Mhm. That are, this, but then as we get
Right.
tied down, we can get,
Get
when we do
closer
that
on the
initial
number.
Some
resolution.
design money
and
can
I will-
come out, but
and
I
I'll
guess go
list out
back.
what I will have. The only other question that I had, and just listening to the conversation, I know that's not the motion, not anything else, but again, thinking about what all projects are we gonna do. And my question is the monies for land? That what I don't want to happen is that we borrow for these things and we come back in July, cause you've got on here on to land, you've got February 14th. I know that's kind of put, but I know that just hearing the discussion tonight, you're talking about land, so is there
Or would you want to do funding from debt service on that?
doing an inter-fund? I mean, inter-fund
Yeah,
loan
but
until we
we-
know?
we don't know
Unless you
on
do
those.
what he's
Yeah.
saying, is,
Yeah, they're
if you
talking
know
about
that you're
funding.
gonna do
I'll
it.
Yes.
I kinda look at it as, are we gonna spend this in the, whenever I look at money, I think, are we gonna spend it in the next 2 years?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't
Yeah, before you.
feel
Depends on how much
bad.
land you're looking at. If it's a few $100,000, we can do it in inter-fund agreement.
Right.
But if it's big money, millions, which hopefully it wouldn't be, then we would have to go to bond. But I would hope it would be a small enough amount we could
And then
borrow
what
from
Jeff said, we
within.
could also always handle it on a 3-year interfund note. So that's, I'm good with
Which is,
that too.
it's not ideal, but if
But
we're
it can
not,
be
We can
done.
do it.
we don't have a firm figure or
It's
anything
almost that
else.
kind of what we've done, it's
It-
4 million.
Okay.
You know,
Borrowed
with,
from ourselves
yeah.
until we have all our projects together.
When you're out there
Yeah.
trying to negotiate property, it's hard to negotiate when you're broke.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then,
I think that might be a problem.
it gets to be a public issue, and you end up with 15 people involved in it, and then it just makes it more difficult, and it costs the county money.
Sitting there
So,
talking about it on TV. you know.
right, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
So, when the opportunity arises, you gotta be prudent and try to take advantage of those so that it doesn't end up costing more money. Because when the government is involved in it, then people automatically think deep pockets. And so, the bill can go up pretty quickly. So we like to be fairly confident when we're trying to, talk a deal up without getting a bunch of people involved.
But when you try and do it quietly, you get accused of not being transparent.
That's
So
right.
it's,
Exactly. It's a
no
two-way.
win,
Yeah.
I don't want to pass up what Commissioner Turner said, because he made a very good point. And we have discussed this on a couple of other issues back 3.5 years ago, and you're exactly right. I don't know what the solution is there. I'm not sure that there really is one. If you don't want to carry a project over until the following year because there is an election, and people are going to be on board that did not vote originally, and we're talking about a funding project now, which this is, then you would have to just shut down the government funding projects from now until August,
Yeah.
which is not going to work. On the other hand, you make a good point, because people come on board, whoever takes my place, for instance, and somebody will, and they're going to be responsible essentially for owning up to my vote, and that may not be what they want to do. I have no idea. I don't know who that'll be. So but if this is wrapped up and we're in good shape by July 1, we're okay on this project, this motion.
I would just counter and say, we borrow over 20 years, so
Right.
you're funding something that somebody did 20 years ago.
Sure.
Too, so.
Well, it's just the balance. I mean, we've had that sort of discussion up here that's become, you know, a little bit tenuous with individuals going at each other. And I want to make sure that if I vote for it, I'm responsible for what I'm voting for and not someone else. And you're right, and Commissioner Jordan is correct.
Okay.
But if we're doing it, I want to make sure that if my name's on that, I'm doing what's right by the people that elected me, and I'm not telling somebody else it's your job now to fix what I did, or to vote, you know, to fund what we voted for. And that's all I was making sure of, and it sounds like we can do that, because that is a big concern just for me, is I don't want to vote on something that could just be pushed out 6 months and somebody else has to deal with it, and I'm not involved in that.
Of course, essentially, it applies to anything we do.
Yeah, sure.
If we change,
It does.
or if the school board changes
Yeah.
the policy, it goes into the next,
Yeah.
you know, the
Right.
next, okay.
It does.
We have to look to the future. And,
Right.
and we don't have a crystal ball to see what the future's gonna be, but we have to plan for the future. And this county is growing, so we don't have a choice.
Right.
You've done very well with that, with your kind of a high school. When you purchased the Stewart's Creek, you know, we're at high school, you have land at Rock Vale, we have land, we hope at Whitworth Buchanan for your high school. So you've been looking ahead. You've done very good at that, and the price you bought land at then would be better than the price that you can buy it now, obviously. So you've been wise in that.
I think we've told y'all before too, and I know we have, that we appreciate options here and some choices and some ways to save. In case of Blackman Middle School, for instance, really delaying or saving altogether a lot of money. And we know we've got to do some of these things. I think that we do. And I appreciate the options and the choices that you've given us. And evidently others are coming. We need to confirm this motion according to the Commissioner Shelton.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you ever get your question answered, Lisa, about is the design fee, is that total less the design fee, or?
Only, not all of it. I mean, there's a,
I think what she said
The city
is
share.
that the city will get a portion of property, which is, of this, which is not figured in. So the portion of that design fee that we've already paid can go for part of that, and we'd kind of work through it as
Gotcha.
we get in there.
Okay.
But we will incur some fees with phase one, construction management,
Yeah, on the, there's,
updating
we
plans.
probably
Goes to budget
maybe
anyway.
spend 50% of it. I'm not sure. I'll have to look and see.
I just didn't know if that was an interfund where we were having to borrow it, show it on this so we could pay it back to another fund. I was just trying to figure out what we were doing with that number.
Any other questions or discussion? Let's confirm the motion now, Commissioner Phillips, if you would, please, and you move for approval. Did we have a specific figure?
I was looking at the end, which is the 6.8. And as Lisa has said, if it ends up not being that, good.
right.
Ms. Cook, you okay with your second on that? If there's no further discussion, Ms. Shelton is about to call the roll. Take it away, Ms. Shelton.
Okay, the motion is to approve the Eagleville Phase One project at an estimated cost of $6.8 million. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Cook,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yes. Mr. Director, is there anything else?
Thank you.
I have a question. Can you give us a quick update on the schools that experienced the flooding issues?
Yes, we have several coal tar roofs, and they're approximately 14 years old, and they're getting to be 3 or 4 years away from their end of life. During the 0 and single digit cold nights, those roofs froze and drew up. Water got into them and they froze, and then when they thawed, the water ran on through. So Thurman Francis, for instance, had a crack from one end parapet all the way down to the other end with a 90-degree crack off of that. So we have temporarily fixed those, and we're asking for money in our next year's capital improvements to replace those roofs. Now, I will take this opportunity to say, and thank you for asking, that the 2.3 million or so that we're receiving every year from the 5 cents is not keeping up with the roofing issues. And we also have roofing, we have pavement, we have HVAC, we've got a bunch of schools that are coming to the end of life on their HVAC compressors and chillers and boilers and those types of things. So that 2.3 is not nearly meeting the requirements to keep those in really good shape. So we've got a train wreck coming down the road in a few years if we don't address that. And we're under Mr. Odom's direction right now, we're putting together a strategic plan with some of those issues highlighted in that, with some dollar figures on them, to get through the school board, get their feedback on them, and see what approach we need to take to try to address those.
Because I saw the damage at Thurman Francis, and really, it goes beyond the roof, because once it gets through, now you've got, in some places, really expensive, like the library. I mean, it's shut down. There's really expensive damage,
There's
so.
library books
Yeah,
even there.
yeah.
We are, right now, we're currently, I have my own assessment of the damage, and the insurance company's looking at it now, and as a matter of fact, they're sending an inspector down. We've already gone through it and everything, and we have some ideas of what the figures should be, but we don't want to publicly put them out until they look at them and give us theirs. And so it's a very critical issue, and if we can get rid of all those coal tar pitch roofs and get EPDM on them, we've changed to white membrane roof on them, which is very strong and works very well, and it's also easy to repair. The coal tar that are on these roofs now has basically been outlawed because during the installation of them, they put off carcinogenous fumes to the workers. So they've quit producing those. And there's no danger to the public through those because everything's encapsulated and but there's nothing even to repair them with. So we need to get rid of them, get these other roofs on there so we don't continue to have issues like that.
How many roofs is that? They're coal tar.
I think there's about 8 of them. If you recall, we had that same issue with Oakland.
I know Oakland and Riverdale had those issues.
And, you know, we repaired the major part of the building, but there's still some other areas that have, we tried to make it last as long as we can, so we're coming to the end of those too.
For the last several years, we've been putting pitched metal roofs on, so that's alleviates that problem in the future on some of those.
Yes, they have a longer lifespan. And
Do you feel like, based on your preliminary conversation with the insurance company, that those schools will be made whole, like, of the things that they lost, or will there just be things that?
I would expect the damage would be much higher than $100,000 that we, that is our deductible. So, and, so in those terms, I hope that we can replace most of that out of insurance fund.
Is the deductible per school or per event?
It's, per event.
Per event, so that's
So-
much better.
So was that considered one event? 4 schools was considered one event?
Yeah.
That's our
Okay.
Okay.
Right, yeah. There's,
We're still to it, yeah.
4 schools, Laverne primary wasn't very bad. It was kind of a common type of an issue, but Smyrna Primary, Riverdale, and Thurman Francis were the ones that really damaged. And Riverdale didn't have a lot of damage because it was in the CTE area, and I think we had some adding machines that were damaged, but other than that, it was just a cleanup on their part, and then we're gonna try to include all the cleanup and everything in
I'm
there.
hoping this is gonna be a blessing in disguise for the Thurman Francis Library. So,
It could be. We're getting new carpet, we're getting new flooring in some areas in there, and so,
I was there today and they were putting books on shelves and that sort of thing, so my only thought was, which I kept to myself, I hope it doesn't rain again and we're sealed if it does. You know, but it has not leaked. They said it had not leaked at all since they did the patch.
We did the
You know, It's a
patch.
temporary, but it has not leaked.
we did the patch. We got the rain back in, and I had 4 ships sitting with the roof all night because we didn't want any more damage.
well, and
so.
I do wanna publicly say that I got nothing but just high praise for the responsiveness that you all provided them. They couldn't have asked for you to be any better, so just wanna say thank you
Thank
for that.
you.
Any other questions?
I have one thing, and
Yes, sir.
again, Mr. Chairman, kind of colliding worlds here, so forgive me. We have, probably half of us sit on Public Works and Planning. And when Mac Nolan comes in to talk about a lot of the recycling stuff, he always mentions what's going on in the schools. And I just want to encourage you and the school board to really continue to try to encourage the schools to invest in those types of programs, because I know that our committee's behind that on Public Works, and I know it's really important to the mayor and to Mr. Nolan that we really start getting some traction there. So whatever can be done from the main office to kind of filter that message down would certainly be appreciated, because it's a very viable and valuable program, I think, for the community, and it's good to get into those school settings like that. And he said they're starting to see some positive traction like that, but it's one of those things that popped up in my head in the Public Works meeting that I wanted to try to bring it up in Health and Ed to just publicly encourage you to continue to try to do what can be done from the county level to make sure that that program really grabs hold in the elementary schools and middle schools and high schools too. I think it just benefits the county as a whole.
Most every school now has extra receptacles,
Yeah.
you know, to do, and they do the sorting.
Sure.
The biggest thing that you have in schools is milk cartons.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really not a way to recycle the milk carton
Yeah.
piece. I mean, I guess if you tried to wash them out, that would take labor,
Right.
and the water would cost more than,
Sure.
than the other. So, but
We're-
that's one of our really big problems.
Yeah.
We're making progress. We also had a contamination problem from the outside of the school system with the
Weekends.
public on the weekends, and everything from dead deer to who knows what. But we started locking all of those, and people are beginning to participate. It's really been
Yeah.
a struggle to get everyone on board, and our elementary schools are doing better, so that gives us hope that by the
Yeah.
time those children get through the cycle, when they get to middle schools and high schools, they will be trained to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of his goal is, really get them used to that in the elementary school. They take that home with them and their parents see that, and it's just a cycle that kind of grows on its own. So, thank you.
If there are no further questions, appreciate it very much, gentlemen. The Eagleville project, I assume, will go to the Budget Committee on March 6th.
One more thing that I would just like to say is that Blackman, the weather this winter has really had a toll on the Blackman job. With all the single digit and sub-zero. And we're keeping pressure on the contractor. We haven't given him any hope of not giving extra time. But there's no way we can deny him if it comes down to that. So it's a possibility that we wouldn't open the 6th grade wing on time there as we normally, and in 10 years, we haven't missed anything, and hopefully won't miss this. But there's a possibility, and I just want to warn people, particularly the commissioners, so that, you know, it doesn't take you by surprise if something happens. But we're struggling, we're trying to get it caught back up, and hopefully we will.
And to stay on topic, Smyrna Primary is on time.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, it's a little bit ahead of itself, isn't it?
It is, and we put those people in the school at night. They got all their electrical run and all their transfer gear and everything located, so all we lack is getting the building up and hooking it up.
The problem with Blackman was we were trying to lay blocks and the mortar would freeze, you know, you down in the teens, and what we saw, they just couldn't do it. I mean, it would damage to it. And I was at Blackman yesterday, and Mr. Shelton and them were working on some contingency plans to try to help them through the first, you know, month if that happens.
Well, so much of that stuff you just cannot, like
Can't do
pour
it.
concrete, lay brick, rock, you
They're
can't do
pumping
it.
concrete today. I mean, they're
Yeah.
out there working, so
Yeah.
we are now
If there's
back.
more cold weather coming, then they
going.
push them off again.
Thank you. Thank you.
you.
Committee brings us to the ever-popular new business, and if there is any, this would be a wonderful time to bring it up. If not, I appreciate your many questions and terrific input tonight. Thank you so much. We are adjourned.
Are you not ready?